short form kind of conversation. So it's going to be 5x5s. And then the idea is that we'll break into much more of a discussion. So without further ado, can I start with Carlos?
My name is Carlos Garcia. I am a recent graduate from the University of Michigan, performing arts technology program through the School of Music. And now I work there, managing a multimedia lab and supervising a consultant staff. So I'm lucky and get to work with people making multimedia art all day long, which is great. I perform under the name L05, so that's the super brief intro for me. And I'm from Michigan, so if you can go to the next one. Basically, when I start the design process, when I'm in it, and even when I'm finished, there's three questions that I constantly try and ask myself. The first is, what's the point? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What am I trying to say? The second is, how am I getting there? By which avenue of technology or not technology am I going to get the end result? And finally, is it fresh? Is it cool? Does it look good? That's important to me. I think coming from hip-hop culture, it's if it doesn't have style, then it's not as cool. So we can go to the next one. So the first one, as far as what's the point, is what am I trying to say? Am I trying to comment or make people aware of a social issue going on? And if so, how am I collaborating with other people to do that? So this is an example of, I saw the SOPA stuff going on pretty early on and got pretty upset about it, considering I very much use the internet a lot. So a bunch of friends volunteered to have their picture taken. So this is a more serious work. On the flip side, am I just trying to do a funny thing? Next slide. And, just do some political commentary. Go to the next one. Or am I trying to put together just a really cool looking show? So these are a few snapshots of my senior thesis show this past May that was in the video studio. So I'll talk a little more about this in a minute. So we can go ahead. The biggest thing is to start my process is to get inspired. So in the context of my thesis show, I had to do a performance that was a multimedia performance that combined everything that I had experienced while at U of M. So I was a dancer and a singer and a rapper and a producer and a visual artist, and so I tried to find a way to put this all together, and after seeing the projection mapping and Amon Tobin's show and different things going on, I got incredibly inspired to figure out how it was done. So the biggest thing that I learned through that entire process was planning ahead, giving time to learn the tools and methods to realize a vision. I think one thing that's overlooked and becoming increasingly important is the rise of electronic markets, like Amazon, the fall of physical stores. So Wes and I actually were working on a project very recently for Art Prize, and it turns out that if you had 2 weeks and you could plan out what you needed, you were going to get the best equipment for cheaper, as opposed to being limited to the 2 products that were in Best Buy. So I think that being able to plan accordingly to allow for this different supply chain is really important. Testing thoroughly and seeking help. So starting simple but challenging myself was the biggest thing in terms of my thesis show. So go ahead. So I started figuring out how to projection map with a simple box and putting colors on the box. And that's actually not even a box. There's 2 things that are wrong with this picture. One is that that's just 3 pieces of foam board propped up with a piece of wood in the back. So the other one was that I was resting projectors on tabletops and propping them up, which for $1,000 projector is a little nerve-wracking. So taking those previous steps into account, Um, I challenged myself and I sought help on how to better secure the projector equipment. So if we go to the next slide, the first thing I did was try to build cooler looking shapes, using a notebook to do it and building it with more foam board. And I got the help of some of the staff at U of M to rig up this little podium thing for the projector, which is on the next slide. So already I was learning the power of collaboration to create. So if you mouse over this thing, just hit play. So my first tests, technical tests as far as testing thoroughly, involved just trying to get light onto this and figure out which software I could use to make the visual effects that I was looking for to go along with the music of my show. As you can see, this is pretty basic. I was extremely thrilled at the time that I was even able to get that going. But in the context of what I wanted to do, it wasn't enough. So if we can advance one more. Which brought me to the realization that sometimes the tools you need to realize your vision don't exist yet. And that's where there's an important decision to be made. So do you look elsewhere, or do you try and create those tools? And being as stubborn as I am, I decided to do the latter. So I learned processing in 10 days and created this. This is a video too, so if you mouse over, it'll have a play button. And essentially, instead of just having like surfaces light up, I started playing with doing like 3D perspective things. So what you're seeing is that shape being projected on with itself, and then responding to real-time input from audio and like a control surface that I put together, which was moving much more in the direction that I wanted to move for my thesis show. It was reactive. I was able to get much cooler shapes, and the other one was slowing down. The software that existed was going really slowly, whereas mine was running at a really smooth frame rate. So it was kind of like a win-win-win situation. Fortunately, I was planning ahead and started 9 months early, so I had time to figure this all out. So we can go to the next slide.
Not 7 minutes.
Not 7 minutes beforehand. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Reggie Watts, but he's a singer, comedian, and I was watching his Google Talk earlier on in the year. Yeah, you know Reggie Watts. But he said a few things at the end when people asked him about technology and art. And the 3 points that he made was it's a powerful tool when used creatively to make an experience you may not get otherwise. Right? That it shouldn't overshadow the content and only should aid the idea that you're trying to convey. And it's a medium by which to expand these creative ideas. So keeping that in mind, I was constantly trying to figure out how not to push it too far and get too complicated with everything. So my end result was, even if the inner workings of it were complex, you know, you see like tons of lines of code. I think there were like thousands of lines of code that I had written. Outwardly, I wanted it to look simple and be something that was digestible. And so this was actually the stage setup for my show, where we had a DJ. I had my whole setup on the table on the left, and then these giant 8-foot tall Cubert things that I built were being mapped on with a whole bunch of crazy visuals. Along the way, there was a lot of stuff that I cut, right? So I had to keep setting my goals and realize that letting go of other ideas only made room for the ones that I really wanted to focus on. So I had this little robot that I was designing that I was going to use an Xbox Kinect and like dance with him. And I had greatly underestimated the amount of time it took to do 3D modeling and rigging. For any animators out there, I salute you. And had to end up dropping this idea. There were a bunch of other cool ideas we had of, you know, projection mapping on dance. I actually worked with 2 choreographers and built these 4-foot tall boxes, and had to cut that one too. Which brings me to the final point, which is collaboration. I collaborated throughout that process. Um, and it was extremely important to collaborate with people and for myself to listen, to communicate, and to make sure that everyone's ideas were like very deliberately delivered. I was looking up the like root words, co, right? Common, joint, mutual, ideas, labor, hard work. So it's not easy, and I think that's extremely important to keep in mind when working in it. That it's not going to be easy, but the joint result will be much greater. So started developing these tools to like work more effectively in a team. This is actually this like pretty simple web space that I put together so that for the complex movements project that I was helping out with, we were able to communicate ideas like show schedules, like preliminary designs for things, all in like a Google site where we could communicate more easily. And so everyone could subscribe to the updates, and when you updated it, it got emailed to everyone. And we found that to be a really useful like project management tool. Pertaining to this, I know that one of the things I saw on the website was transforming spaces. So I had the wonderful opportunity of working with Wes and Invincible and Wajid on transforming a space in Grand Rapids in this Grand Rapids Public Museum, which is now Site Lab. And we essentially built a projection map wall. Learned to welcome many beautiful mistakes along the way. And by beautiful mistakes, I mean things that didn't go the way we wanted them to, but ended up working better than we could have ever thought. And so that became a crucial part of the design process.